family in Pennsylvania contacted us because something in their house was terrifying their baby. She would wake up screaming, "No!" and point towards the bedroom door at something no one else could see. She had scratches on her face. It was her talking to someone through the baby monitor. And when we carried her into one particular room, she looked around in pure terror, like she was staring at a room full of spirits. That's when we realized this wasn't just a haunting. Welcome back, everyone. This case took place in 2016 in Pennsylvania, and it was one of the most disturbing cases we had ever investigated because the primary target appeared to be a baby. The family had already contacted a pastor who came to the home and performed a blessing. After he left, things seemed calm for a short time, but then the activity started again. The baby, who was barely a year old, would sometimes be heard saying "Meemaw." The strange part was that the baby had never met her grandmother, yet that was the name the family used for her. One morning, the baby also woke up with scratches on the left side of her face. The daughter of the homeowners slept in an upstairs room, and she reported that her bed would sometimes shake as though someone had bumped into it. The family also reported seeing a shadow figure wearing a top hat moving through parts of the house. At night, the baby would often wake up after being put to sleep and begin screaming "No!" while pointing towards the bedroom door. They had baby monitors in the room so that they could hear her when they were downstairs. Sometimes they would hear her talking to someone. Not full sentences, but baby talk. She wouldn't sound scared during those moments. But other times, she would scream in absolute terror. That's when they contacted us. When we first arrived and finished introductions, I asked the family if I could carry the baby upstairs. I wanted to see if she reacted to anything from her perspective, and they agreed. I picked up the baby and began walking up the stairs towards her room. I asked my partner to walk behind me and gave him one simple instruction. If I get pushed, grab the baby. Don't worry about me. We entered the baby's room, and I watched her face carefully as we walked around. She just looked around the room casually. Nothing seemed to bother her. And that was actually a good sign. So then we moved into the office next door. And this is where I wish we'd had cameras rolling. The moment we stepped inside that room, the baby's entire expression changed. She suddenly looked terrified. She began scanning the room from left to right. Her brow furrowed if she was staring at something we couldn't see. She didn't scream, possibly because I was holding her and she felt safe, but she just kept scanning the room over and over again, left to right and back again. It honestly looked like she was staring at multiple things around that room. At that moment, I remember thinking, how many are we dealing with here? So I carried her back downstairs, and this time I had my partner walk in front of me just in case something tried to push me again. We returned the baby to the family and began setting up our equipment. A quick note about the evidence in this episode. This is an older case, so some of the video and audio recordings may not be perfect quality. Headphones may help when listening to some of the audio clips that you will find at the end of this video. So at this point in the investigation, the demonic entities in the house began making their presence known, and they were not clearly happy at all. Before I continue, let me explain a couple things about how we work. First, we do not carry our cell phones during an investigation. Cell phones can interfere with some of the paranormal equipment and cause false readings, so we keep them stored away in another room with our gear. Second, and in my experience, human spirits and demonic entities feel very different. It's hard to explain, but when something dark is present, you know it. And third, in every demonic case that we have worked, there are also human spirits present. Now, you can have a location with only human spirits, and we've had lots of those, but if demons are present, human spirits seem to be there as well. So which came first? The human spirits or the demons? Honestly, I have no clue. That's above my pay grade. At one point, I was standing in the center of the baby's room while my partner walked around the room taking baseline readings with a millimeter. The meter wasn't picking up anything unusual. Then I suddenly said, "It is standing right beside me." My partner walked over and held the millimeter to my right side, exactly where I said it was. The meter spiked immediately. Whatever was there wasn't hiding, and things only got worse. Later, we began setting up equipment around the baby's crib. My partner was standing at the head of the crib, and I was standing at the foot of the crib with my back to the door. We were discussing where to place some of the equipment when I suddenly heard a loud hissing sound. It was so loud that I immediately turned around expecting to see something behind me, but there wasn't anything there. And just to clarify, the family did not have any pets. So I turned back to my partner and asked, "Did you hear that?" He said yes. I didn't tell him what I heard. I wanted to see if we heard the same thing. So I asked him what it sounded like. And he said it sounded like a cat hissing. So at that point it was clear something was trying to intimidate us and make us leave. Unfortunately for them, we don't scare easily. During investigations, I am actually pretty boring. If something happens, my reaction is usually just, "Okay, that just happened," and then we keep going. That's really actually the best approach because these entities feed off of fear. If you don't give them fear, you don't give them energy. So a couple hours later, we began the actual investigation. One important thing about our work is we do not intentionally communicate with demons. Instead, we focus on helping the human spirits move on. And ironically, this tends to make the demonic entities even angrier, because they just want those human spirits to stay. Why? Possibly because they're being tormented by them. So our goal is to help free the human spirits, and then at the end, perform prayers on a cleansing, calling upon Jesus to remove the demonic presence. But what happened shortly in the baby's room was something neither of us expected. Later that night, we returned to the baby's room. And here, let me set the scene. The room was pitch black. I'm sitting in the center of the room on the floor, while my partner stood about 5 feet away with a camera and listening closely to the spirit box responses. So I began asking questions like, "Why are you here? Who is frightening the baby?" Letting them know that we're here to help them move on tonight. Suddenly my partner said, "Did you hear that?" I stopped everything and asked him, "What did you hear?" He said the spirit box had just said, "Get her." At that moment, it felt like the demonic entities had returned and they were not happy about what we were doing. So I turned off the equipment and sat completely still. I waited. Was something going to push me, scratch me, attack me? I had no idea. Several minutes passed, but nothing happened. So we continued the investigation. After finishing in the baby's room, we conducted similar sessions in other areas of the house that had reported activity. When the investigation was complete, we performed the crossing over prayers for the human spirits. Then we performed a full cleansing and prayer session throughout the house for everything else. Immediately, the energy felt lighter. Even the family commented on it. We left believing that maybe, finally, this baby would be left alone. But the story wasn't over yet. The next day the client called and said things were still happening. I almost fell out of my chair. That shouldn't have been possible. I went through our entire process step by step with her. Okay, we did the basement, we did the cleansing, main floor, did the cleansing, upper floors, yep, completed that. We hadn't missed anything, at least that I knew of. Then she said something that changed everything. Oh, we forgot to tell you about the crawl spaces. Well, the house is very, very old, and it had 2 hidden crawl spaces on the top level that had been sealed decades earlier with small doors. We had never even seen them. So we went back a few days later. We removed the covers, cleansed both crawl spaces, and placed blessed Saint Benedict medals and small crosses inside them. We then repeated the cleansing throughout the home. After that, everything stopped, and the baby was no longer disturbed. Peace finally returned to that house. So what was our lesson learned here? When cleansing a home, every space must be addressed. Rooms, closets, attics, basements. And apparently, hidden crawl spaces too. Because if even one place is left untouched, whatever is hiding there may remain. What?
I just heard, just wait and then get her.
Is there something else here in this house besides you that scares the baby? Who's in here with me right now? The person that said yeah. Are you answering the question, or are you the one that's keeping all the other spirits here?